And here we are. Welcome to the Power of Man podcast, everybody. My name is Rory Paquette. I am, as always, your very humble host. Appreciate you all joining us today. If I'm not wrong, this is going to be episode 57. And I'm really happy to be doing this way today. We have a very, very, very special guest with us today. It's not that often that I get to introduce somebody, whether it's on a podcast or anywhere else, and I get to say this is someone who is a great person through and through, someone who I care about a lot, and somebody who, to be completely honest, saved my life. And so I'm proud to be able to say that today as I introduce this gentleman. And then I'm going to let you guys talk about him afterwards. You can send me all the comments you want. We can see what you think. We are here today with my coach, the guy who tells me what's going on, the guy who tells me to, get my head straight. And his name is Jon Alcon. Jon, welcome, man.
Thanks, man. I'm excited to be here, man. I know we've been kind of talking about this for a few weeks, but we finally made it happen. So I'm excited, man.
Cool. I'm glad to hear it. Now, let's see. Just to kind of start with what you do, you're a life coach. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you've got a group called Prioritizing Mental Wellness for Men.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about that group.
So, man, I created that group with men in mind. Obviously, I honestly feel that we don't prioritize our mental wellness. We don't prioritize ourselves in general enough. And so, my goal with this group is to get these guys inside of there and potentially teach them to step outside of their comfort zone and step up and take care of themselves so that they can become better men for their family, for their wives, for their kids, for their jobs, for their businesses, but most importantly for themselves, because we tend to put ourselves on the back burner, right? And my goal is to teach you to take an hour a day, 30 minutes a day, 5 minutes a day to do something to prioritize what it is that you need. So that's the goal behind the group.
Nice. I'm a member of this group and have been for a little while now. And that's obviously how I met you. But, I like a lot of what you're doing in the group, or I wouldn't be part of it. So, yeah, so we're good.
Appreciate that.
I know that anytime anybody's going to go look you up, and I've pumped you up a little bit before in some of the things that I've done, say, hey, go follow this guy. But you were not always, Mr. Physically Fit, Mr. Super Cool, Mr. Life Coach. I mean, you've had quite a battle, haven't you?
Yeah, I definitely have, man. And again, a big reason why I am in this role that I am in is because I was that man who needed help, and I had no idea where to look. And I didn't know there was things like this, right? I didn't know where to look or how to find it, and so I stepped into this role in obviously overcoming what it was that I needed to overcome. And now I'm teaching men how to do that same thing, how to overcome the things that I have dealt with, and letting them know that there are things to help them overcome their shit.
Okay. You I saw some before and after pictures of you at some point. So I mean, you were a pretty heavy guy at one point, right?
I was 230. So I'm 5. I like to say 5'10", but I think I'm 5'9". 230 at my heaviest, which it doesn't sound extreme, but that's pretty heavy for my shorter frame. Pre-diabetic, high cholesterol, obese, and all of this runs in my family, and it scared the shit out of me in my early 20s going to the doctor and finding out that I had these conditions. And that's kind of what really triggered what was happening. I went to the doctor. I was a typical male. I don't need to go to the doctor. I don't need to go get checked up. So it had been a few years, and when I did, they gave me all of this news that scared the shit out of me, and that really is what triggered my self-awareness. And so at that point, I really stepped back. I took a look at my entire life. Something that I teach my guys, like, we need to do a life audit sometimes in life, right? If we're not happy, if we're not where we want to be in life, And if we're not taking the steps to find that and to create that, we really need to take a step back and figure out what the fuck it is that we need to do to start creating that, to start taking those steps. So me going to the doctor, getting that news, and then obviously looking at everything in my life, I realized that I was depressed. I was unhappy. I was drinking to escape. I was smoking weed to escape. And this was on a daily basis, right? And I look at the relationship that I was in, and it wasn't serving me in any positive way. I look at the relationship with the friends that I had. It wasn't serving me. I look at the job that I had, and that coming back to like, you are who you surround yourself with, right? I knew something needed to change, and it had to start with my actions, with my surroundings. So what I did is, first step, I hired a personal trainer. That was my very first. This was 2011. Hired a personal trainer, and I loved what he did for me. And the reason why I did this is because I was scared shitless of the gym. I'm a heavy guy. The gym is intimidating if you've never been. And I hired a personal trainer because I had no idea what I was doing or how to do it or what to do. And I loved what he did and how he made me feel. And it sparked something within me. And was the beginning of my snowball effect. And as I continued to just, self-develop, I realized that the people I thought closest to me started to drift away as I started to evolve, as I started to elevate myself. My entire life, my entire environment started to change.
That seems to be something that's pretty common whenever men start to improve themselves. Their friends, their family, people start to kind of, distance themselves a little bit. They look at them a little bit differently. They accuse them of being selfish. Is that something you find happens? Right. Is that pretty normal, you think, for any of the guys that you're working with?
That's very normal, man. And a lot of times, like, to the extreme, it could even end up, and this is the point that I never wanted to get to, but there have been times where it has led to similar situations. These men are evolving, and the people that they surround themselves are either choosing to grow with them or not. And it's always not easy to see. It's not easy to witness it on my end, and it's not easy as men are going through it, right? True. But it does happen, man. It really does.
So we'll circle back around to that. I'm sure. You hired a personal trainer to help you sort of break out. Okay. And that's cool. That's hard for a lot of guys.
Yeah.
How tough was that? And how did you get to the point where you actually could, kind of swallow your pride as a man and say, hey, I need to have somebody else show me the gym. You know what I mean? Because I think guys think that we're born with knowing how to work the gym.
Right.
I'm a man, so I should know how it works. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did you go about that?
Man, when I look back at that very vulnerable moment, I guess that's, if I could sum it up with one word, it was being vulnerable. And I don't even think I knew what that word meant. I was in my early 20s, and it was at the time the most uncomfortable situation that I had ever been in, because for multiple reasons, like, personal trainers aren't very cheap. So I was spending money on myself, something I didn't do often. And it was just, I knew something needed to change. And if I didn't change it, I was going to fucking die. Right. Like, that was my mindset, is if I didn't change, I was most likely going to end up dead. And that was kind of the thought that was in my head as I made that decision.
Wow. I mean, desperation, sort of, is the mother of invention very often for us as men, when we get to that point. So, so let's get back to your story though a little bit. You hire a personal trainer. Mm-hmm. You start working with this person. You're making improvements. What happens next?
So as I'm losing weight, gaining muscle, I again really loved what he was creating within me, and I knew that I wanted to do that for other men. So I figured out how I could become a personal trainer. So what I did from there, I attended a trade school for personal training. It was a year-long program. So I became a personal trainer and absolutely loved what I was doing. I was creating transformation within people. But what I realized as we continued to work together, men, women, even teenagers, you would lose the weight. And this is something I experienced as well. You could lose the weight, you could gain the muscle, but there's more that needs to be done in order to create internal happiness, right? You could do all this work, but there's still something that's missing. And that's what I realized within myself. And that's what I realized working with other people, is that they were creating this transformation, but they weren't finding true happiness. Even though they thought they were going to the gym to lose weight, there was more that needed to be done on a mental level. And so I became a personal trainer. After a few years, I started getting into self-development. And this was another spark that really happened, that like, holy shit, there's so much more to us than just our external world, right? Like we need to create happiness within our hearts, within our mind. And my very first kind of experience with self-development was a Lewis Howes book. I don't know if you're familiar with Lewis Howes.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
But he was kind of my entry to self-development, and the School of Greatness book, I think is what it was called, and blew my fucking mind, right? Blew my mind. At this time as well, the gym that I had worked out, I was dating my now wife, and she started getting into the self-development a little further along than me. But she had found this coach, a spirituality life coach, a subconscious coach. And, I took it from Lewis Howes' book to this coach. And again, just blew my mind open of realizing that things needed to change on a much deeper level, right? So that was kind of the transition from personal trainer to coach.
That's interesting. Now, how long ago was that? I'm just curious. I've never asked you that before.
Yeah, 2014. So became a personal trainer 2012. And yeah, it took a few years, 2 years. 2014 is kind of when I started making that transition.
Excellent. So you've been doing this a little while. You're not a rookie at this or anything.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. It took a lot of development myself before I really, decided to take the transition to want to help other men. So, I made sure that the tools that I was learning actually worked. I practiced what I preached.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Yeah. Now you've got, now that you are doing this, okay, and this is what you do. I know we've got the group on Facebook, Prioritizing Mental Wellness for Men. You also do a podcast. Okay.
I do.
The Misunderstood Man, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I've listened to every single episode.
Good. That's awesome.
I'm a fan. I'm a fan. That's right.
Love it. Love it.
So, what are your plans for the podcast? I'm curious.
So the Misunderstood Man, first of all, let's start there. So that's a man who knows that his purpose is much deeper than himself, right? And this is a man who is conscious on all levels of life. And when you are that man, when you feel like you're that man, you're self-aware, you're conscious, you understand, concepts that aren't very talked about yet, like being in tune with yourself, being emotionally intelligent, being mentally strong, being a strong man for your woman. This misunderstood man is that man. So that's kind of the basis around, what the misunderstood man is. And those are kind of the topics and the subjects that I talk about with the podcast. And the idea behind it is just to bring more awareness to men who maybe aren't necessarily quite there yet.
Excellent. I think you do a good job of that, to be honest with you. I really like what you do with the Facebook group, of course, but the podcast is an interesting additional side to you, and I like the way you explained it, because it isn't like a repeat of, what you get from the Facebook group. It is very different.
Yeah.
So that's good. And that's on, just in case anybody's looking for it, if somebody might want an additional podcast to listen to besides mine. I mean, I do recognize people listen to more than one. So that's available on all the platforms. And
yep. Yeah. Most listened to, as I'm sure most of your listeners, Spotify and Apple iTunes.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So and I found it on the iTunes. So I know it's there.
Yeah.
A little bit for the folks who are listening, in terms of you and I, how do I know you? What have we been through? Part of what I do on my podcast is I'm very open, very honest, and I let people know about some of the issues that I'm dealing with, so that they can, take that and run with it in their own lives.
Yeah.
You and I met, not just through the group, because I was following the group, I was part of it, but then you did a special. Was a 4-week, I think it was, to start with
30-day 4-week challenge, if you will.
Challenge. There you go. So you've got this group where you post regularly, and you put out good advice and things that help guys out. You ask good questions and say, hey, when's the last time you did this, or how do you feel about that? You do a lot of thought-provoking stuff for guys, but then you also have these groups within the group. That's how you and I met, and I'll talk about that in a second, but what other groups do you do? And what would somebody expect if they were to sign up for your free Facebook group? What else are they going to be getting or, receiving, running into?
Yeah. So, I mean, the idea with the free Facebook group is to bring as much value as I can at no cost. I know that money can tend to be an issue. So my Facebook group is free for anybody to join. And the idea is to just bring as much value as possible. Outside of that, I do have some things that we go a lot more in depth in. I have like the smaller groups, like you said. I run 30-day challenges just to really kickstart something that might need to be done, something that you've experienced. I have one-on-one guys that I help, and then I also something else that you're a part of, have my group program that has been launched and that we're in week 1. And those are the different types. Again, the free Facebook group to give as much value as possible. And then for the guys who are ready to really step outside of their comfort zone, who are really ready to create transformation, there's obviously deeper levels that we could work at so that we can create that transformation.
Sure. I think that's important for people to know, because it's not just a free Facebook group with no value, because it's free.
Right.
I mean, there's a ton of stuff in the actual group for anybody who wants to just sort of casually get into it. And, if you're sitting at home and you're a guy and you haven't really thought about all this and you want to maybe dip your toe in the water, about, hey, I know I need to improve. I'm not real sure how, they can join your group and they can get a pretty good taste of it, and they don't even have to participate. They just join it and sit there and watch, right? Read the post, see if you like it.
Right.
But I like the fact that you offer the additional, deep dive for guys who are like ready, you know what I mean? And, there's a little bit of a cost. Anything that's got value, really real value has a little bit of a cost to it. You and I did a physical fitness thing, it was a lose weight, type of challenge. I want to make sure that, I kind of let everybody know what that was. I haven't really talked in depth about it with folks on the podcast, but I signed up for it figuring, okay, he's a personal trainer, he's a good looking guy, I'm sure I'm going to have to, it's going to be workout, eat this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, maybe I'll get a nugget out of this that will help me. Maybe I'll lose a few pounds. Maybe, I'll come up with a new exercise. I'll be able to feel a little bit better. So I didn't go in like pessimistic or even skeptical. I went in with an open mind and said, let's just see. Obviously, what I'm doing right now isn't, I've plateaued.
Yeah.
I wrote a book about weight loss that actually helped me get from ridiculously obese down to where I was when I met you. But I had
Yeah.
plateaued because all that was counting the calories and stuff like that. I
Right.
didn't realize till my first meeting with you in person that the reason I wasn't losing weight had nothing to do with macros
Right.
and calories and
Mm-hmm.
eating plans and everything else. And it was that type of work, which literally began in meeting number one, that got me to where I am. That was about 3.5 months ago, I think, maybe 4 months ago at this point, beginning of
Mm-hmm.
March, beginning of March. So March, April, May, June. Yeah, 4 months.
Yeah.
And I'm down, as of this morning, I'm down 44 pounds
44 pounds. That's huge,
from the
Rory.
day we started, man. And I'm looking at a weight that I haven't seen since like back when I got married, almost. You
That's
know what I mean?
fucking
It's
huge. That's
crazy,
awesome.
just crazy. After a month with you, I actually said, I can lose 100 pounds. If you'd have told me before I met you and before we started working together, oh, Rory, do this, you're going to lose 100 pounds, I'd be like, yeah, okay, right. I don't know what
Mhm.
you're smoking, but can I have some?
Right, right.
After a month with you, I said, I can lose 100 pounds.
Yeah.
I know
And
I
you're on
can.
track to do more than that right now.
I'm almost halfway there,
Yeah.
and I'm sitting here. I mean, I'm I'm a little short. I'm about your height, probably, give or take. I used to be 6 foot, but my spine has shrunk.
It
So
happens. It
not my
happens.
fault. It's not my fault. But yeah, I mean, I'm a wide guy, and I've always, carried, a lot of weight. But I mean, if I got down to 220, I'd be looking around going, my family wouldn't recognize me. Well, my wife would, probably never let go of me. I
Yeah.
mean, we work out really, really well. And that was just pie in
Yeah,
the
it would.
sky, man, when we started. And now I'm looking at it going, I'm going to hit that before the end of the year. And
You
dude,
are, man.
that's because of you, man. That is
You know
100%
what?
because of you. I want everybody to know that. Okay. I mean, I practice what I preach, and I'm not going to recommend you to somebody for losing weight if I think you're full of crap. And you've done it. And even when we stopped working together that way, we still communicate. We still got some other things going, but that program ended like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was amazing to me. So thank you
But
for that.
you know what though? I mean, you're welcome, but you were the one who did the work, man. I just facilitated it. And because of you doing that work, like I'm fucking proud of you like no other, man. And I've come across guys that, I could give them all the tools in the world, and there's not much change. But then there's guys like you. I give you the same tools, and you're on track for 100 pounds by the end of the year.
Yeah.
And that's you, man. Like you did the work, you did the action. Yes, I facilitated it, but that was all you, man.
No, I appreciate that. There are one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is because there are a lot of guys that are out there that I think have the will to do it, and I think would love to improve themselves, and they just don't know really how to start. And I
Ah,
think that's really where they need somebody like you, to be
right.
honest.
You said that perfectly, man. There's a lot of times we know what we want to do, but we don't really necessarily know where to start.
Right.
And I would say it's your case is 10 out of 10 guys. Like you just need to fucking start. You knew that something needed to change. Just like when I hired a personal trainer, I knew that something needed to fucking change, and I knew that something was going to need to be done that was outside of my comfort zone. And that was me spending money on myself, hiring a personal trainer. Similar story to yours. And I think almost 10 out of 10 guys have been in that similar situation or are in that situation. And that's the thing, man. It's like if you know that something needs to change, then you need to step outside of your comfort zone. That's the only thing that I could tell you. It's something I've experienced, something you've experienced, something that every guy that has ever worked with me experienced. And it is just taking that first unknown step outside of your comfort zone and just doing something.
Right on. Right on. Well, Zoom is going to throw me out the window here in a few minutes, so I want to wrap it up. Make sure we, kind of cover
That time
everything.
flew by.
It really does. It always does when I'm talking to you, man. I'm telling you, But
it does.
There's, I want to make sure everybody, gets your info and can find you, stuff like that. But we got a couple of minutes here.
Yeah.
Is there, again, as a guy who's listened to the Power Man, and he's out there and, he doesn't believe in himself, and he feels like I've got the weight, and I'm not sure if I have hope to change anything. I'm feeling like I'm stuck in my situation. What's your advice to a guy who really does want to change, doesn't know what to do tomorrow, and feels like everything in his life is slipping away from him?
Yeah, man, it's literally what I just said. You need to take a step into being uncomfortable. You're not going to know what that next step is. But the longer that you wait to take that next step, the longer you wait for clarity, the longer it is going to take for you to make any change. And there's a lot of guys who live a stagnant life, and they know that that's not their potential. They know that they're not happy, but they're content and they just stay there, right? So if you're in a position to where you know that you really need to fucking change, there's no perfect time. There's never going to be a perfect time, and nobody's ever going to come and fucking save you, right? And it really is just taking that first unknown step into whatever it is, listening to that new podcast, signing up for a 30-day challenge or a webinar, reading that new book. It's just starting somewhere and continuing that, because it will create a snowball effect if you allow it. You take that first step, you open that first book, and it's going to start to open your eyes, and it's going to start to create that snowball effect. So it is going to be doing something outside of your comfort zone to start to create change.
Right on. Best way to reach you, man?
Facebook. I mean, I'm everywhere. Facebook, Jon Alcon, Instagram, Jon Alcon. My first name is Jon, last name Alcon. Dabbling in TikTok now, and all the new age stuff. But you Google my name, I'm pretty sure that maybe my website pops up or Facebook pops up. But yeah, Jon Alcon.
All right. Podcast is The Misunderstood Man.
Yes, sir.
Right, which anybody can find.
Yes, sir.
Facebook group, Prioritizing Mental Wellness for Men. People can look that up.
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. And listen, man, I appreciate it.
I appreciate you, man.
Will always be grateful to you, brother, for what you did for me. So I hope that somebody else who's listening to this decides that they've had enough and they can reach out to you. Thanks for being here, man.
Of course. Anytime, brother. Anytime.
Folks, every time I end the podcast, I say the same things. And, after listening to Jon for this period of time, I hope that you guys understand why I say these things. I'm constantly telling you all, you're worth it. I don't always believe it about myself, which is why I have to say it all the time. That's why I say it to you all the time. Folks, you're worth it. You're worth it. Your family's worth it. Your kids are worth it. Making a change, calling somebody like Jon, it's worth it. The only thing you have to do is believe it. Thanks for being here today. Thank you, Jon. Appreciate it.
Of course, man. Powerful
Folks,
words.
Right on. Until next time. Boom. Still there, brother?
Mm-hmm.
All right, man. That's the end of the recording.
Cool, man.
Thank you
good
so
conversation.
much.
Of course, man. I always a good conversation to have with you, man. I enjoy connecting with you for sure.
Me too.
Man, I'm glad to hear about your weight loss this morning. Like you said, you knocked out even what was gained last week. So congrats, man.
Thank you, man. That meant a lot to me. That gain just, pissed me off.
Yeah.
It was just like, you got to be kidding. How did I gain 1.6 pounds? No way.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I saw the number this morning at 3.8, and I was like, so let me just do this math. I wiped out the 1.6 and made 2.2 progress all in the
Yeah.
same week, you know, and I didn't
You
starve
know,
myself. It was just went right back to the stuff, you know, and got more serious.
your bodies just fluctuate so much, man. It could have been, maybe you had more dairy than you did that week, or more stress, or more just emotional things going on. Like, it's not only food or what you intake, physically, but what's going on, your environments, emotionally, mentally, and
Yeah.
our bodies really do. They fluctuate with what's going on. So
That's
could have
something
been
I've
a
really noticed. Yeah.
could
Is
have been a
how
lot of
bad
different things. Yeah.
I've noticed how drastically, and I never realized it before because I was never really looking at it and making progress, of course, but I've never really realized how much um, the stress that I put myself under and that I deal with all the
Mhm.
time impacts my weight. I just
Yeah.
never really saw the correlation until
Mhm.
like now.
Yeah.
And it's phenomenal. You know,
Mhm.
I
It
mean,
really is.
you look at the 2 weeks where I had like zeros, I didn't gain, didn't lose. Huge, huge, huge stress those weeks. You look at the
Yeah.
week I had to gain, probably the most stressful week since I started
Yeah.
the whole
Yeah.
program. And I got rid of that stress hard, you know, worked on some real serious stuff with my wife. And,
Yeah.
you know, we dug deep. And the next thing you know, I didn't just release the stress, I released all that weight for the week, you know, which
Yep.
was phenomenal. It's just amazing the way stuff connects. So
Mhm.
it's
Something that has always kind of stood out to me when we had very first met, man. I remember you saying like your wife is pretty spiritual, very like oneness with the universe or whatever, however, excuse me, however you want to say it. Um, and that you tend not to really believe that stuff, but there's a lot to say about like emotional trauma, emotional things going on, and things working out the way they should. Because look at how you had that gain, right? And then this week you let go of the stress, you let go of whatever it was you were holding on, that was literally holding on in your physical weight. You
right.
let that go, and you not only lost what you had gained, but you also lost double that, more, and um it's just something to say that like things do work out, man. You like your thoughts are very important.